So a very good afternoon, ma'am. First of all, I'm really sorry for the network issues which we have had
Not a
faced.
problem. Mm,
So we would be starting with the interview. First of all, to our audience, I just want to introduce ma'am. Her name is
mm,
Rashi Anand, and she is the founder of Lakshyam NGO. If I tell about Lakshyam NGO, then it has been working for social welfare through by the upliftment of children and women empowerment throughout India in various states, particularly if I mention a number, then there have been 17 states in which the NGO is currently functional, and there have been 24 centers related to the same. So, ma'am, first of all, what led you to start this NGO that you have to do something for social welfare and you want to give something back to the society?
So first of all, hi everyone, and thank you so much for such a warm welcome. And coming to your part, what made me start? So basically, I was born and brought up in Ranchi, a small town. And when I came down to Delhi almost 15, 17 years back, so I saw the kids living on the streets, on the roads, under the flyovers. And in Ranchi, I never saw that. So basically, I was a little surprised and taken aback that how people are living on the roads and how they're surviving themselves. And that time I was in Delhi University, and because when we ride on auto and the rickshaw, so those kids would always come and start touching me, ki didi kuch de do. And as soon as the traffic signal will go red, so they'll always go back running, and what they had in their hands was empty plastic bottles and broken toys and broken tires. So what I realized was that at our households, on an average, every child used to have 100 toys, 100 odd toys, sabke ghar pe. Vice versa for them, the trash was their toys. So it was just a thought कि जब हमारे घर में बच्चों के पास इतने खिलौने हो सकते हैं तो उनके पास एक भी खिलौना नहीं है, क्यों नहीं है? And I just started working on an individual capacity wherein I went to a couple of schools and I volunteered there saying that I just want to collect toys and books from your organization. The first school was Golden Bell School, which is in Ashok Vihar, and we got a huge response. And we just announced once in the assembly that all the parents should send all the unused, used toys and books which are not of use to them. And we collected 10,000 odd toys and books from one school. The principal was very happy, and then he sent the same toy box to further school. And that is how, within a span of 1 year, I remember we had almost 70,000 toys and books. So toys, what I was doing that time was going under the flyovers, Nizamuddin, RK Puram, Kashmiri Gate, and used to give them. But I was, at the end of the year, we had almost 30,000 plus books that I never knew what to do of that. So then I thought that maybe I can open up a library where these books can be useful. And that is how the first center of Lakshyam came into place in Vasant Kunj. And then slowly and slowly we just started expanding.
That was really delight to hear about it. Ma'am, when you started about all these things, then you were studying at that point of time, if I'm not wrong. So at that particular point of time, sometimes it is in our mind that it's very difficult to manage my own studies along with my own curricular activities. Then, was there any difficulty which you had experienced in balancing all these things, or it was like quite smooth for you?
So I think when we all are in college, we are anyhow part of some of the other clubs in our colleges. So Enactors clubs are there, NSS clubs are there. So I was always part of those clubs, but I actually could not work with those clubs where I wanted to work. So that is how my individual journey started. And my graduation was over, and parallel to that, I also volunteered with a lot of NGOs. And then I realized कि I just could not find any organization at that point of time जो actual में जो बच्चे रोड पे भीख मांगते हैं या कूड़ा चुनते were working directly with them. So then I thought maybe I can just start learning more about them, that how and where they are coming from, how are they surviving, why are they here. So it was just a learning process about it started for me. Initially, if I talk about struggles, yes, of course, because I think I was 18, 19 at that point of time. And going and working there was not easy. So the men were always staring at me. Those nasty remarks were always there. And when I spoke to their mothers that I need to speak to their children and ensure that they need to study, so the response was कि आपको 100 रुपए देने पड़ेंगे 3 घंटे के लिए, because अगर बच्चा भीख नहीं मांगेगा तो हमारे पास पैसे कैसे आएंगे, और पैसे नहीं आएंगे तो हम रात को खाना कैसे खाएंगे. So it was a very vicious circle, and I just could not understand कि कैसे काम करना चाहिए. And one thing which I saw that even if we see today also, a lot of time we see on the traffic signals कि बच्चे little unconscious are always there on the arms of the parents and they are begging. And that time I found out there is a local drug called Meow, which is available at any pan shop, and the parents used to give that drug to their own children. उससे बच्चों को ना ठंड लगती है और उसके बाद ना बच्चों को भूख लगती है. And when we see the child in Delhi winters without clothes, little unconscious, we as human tend to give them more money. So I just could not take in that fact. And I think initially I failed multiple times, be it on the roads, on the slum clusters, how to convince the parents. So I failed multiple times, but I think that each failure was more of a learning lesson for me. And then we moved on.
Ma'am, you have mentioned about that drug which is used by people, and you have mentioned about bagging as well. So you have, since you have closely worked with all of them, so do you think like it is like a racket of bagging which is actually stopping the kids from working?
So I did not come across any racket of begging. A lot of people have asked a similar thing, but the communities where we have worked earlier in two, three communities, so they were basically the people who were living there, and they used to go and sell toys on the traffic signals. When they are selling the toys on the traffic signals, so they have no option where to leave the child behind. So either they take the child along. So we see the mother and the father begging the selling the flowers and the toys on the traffic signal, and their own children are begging on the similar traffic signal. So we haven't come across any racket. So we have worked in almost 7 to 8 slum areas in Delhi.
All right, ma'am. Ma'am, along with it, what are your future plans for Laksham?
So we want to make Lakshyam as a self-sustainable organization. We have always been dependent on organizations, individuals that we need to raise funds for the organization. And we realized that a permanent source of income should always be there. And also we have learned a lot about social entrepreneurship these days. So what we are trying to curate is two social ventures have come up with Lakshyam, wherein one is called Tuk Tuk Gilheri, which is an animal sanctuary in Noida, wherein people come and they buy the tickets and then they enter the farm, and all the rescued animals are there, and it's more about a learning space. And other is called Holy Cow Laksham, wherein we make products out of cow dung and cow urine, and the products are made by again local rural women. So when we sell the product or we give the services, we are generating a source of income for that. So then even if we don't have any donor, any corporate funding, we will still be able to continue. And I think at today's time, the most important thing that any organization need to focus on is to have sustainability, is what I think.
Great. That is like absolute pleasure to hear about it. Along with that, you have been working on several projects. Like, if you could explain our audience more about the projects you have been working on in Laksham itself.
So Laksham basically have three projects. First is Laksham Butterfly, the second is Laksham Roo, and the third is Laksham Toy Library. Laksham came into formation with Laksham Toy Library, wherein we just spoke about collecting of toys and books. So because we had so
Okay.
many toys and books, so we just could not figure out कि कहाँ पे use करना चाहिए, कैसे use करना चाहिए. So we started opening libraries across Delhi and then across India. Today we have almost operational 11 libraries and 17 states. And the second program is Lakshya Butterfly, which is our focus area, wherein we work with street children. So idea is to take the child out of begging, rag picking, or any form of child labor and put the child into the formal education system within a span of 5 years. So again, we need to have a six-step model. So we start with identifying the children, identifying the slum area, then counseling them, then mobilizing them, counseling the parents. And even if the child is 14 years of age, he or she cannot be enrolled in class 4 directly. क्योंकि उसने कभी स्कूल गया ही नहीं वो तो उसको कैसे कर सकते
Yes,
सो
ma'am.
देन वी हैव अ ब्रिज एजुकेशन गैप then we have to work on their documentation because the Aadhaar cards are never in place. And then after that, we ensure that the child goes to the school and we do the hand holding till class 5th. So this is all about Lakshyam Butterfly, wherein we ensure a holistic development of all the children. And the second is Lakshyam Ru, which came into picture because the focus area were always children. So we realized their mothers play a very important role. So if the child is working, it's just because the parents are asking the child to work. So we started working with all the diseases, wherein we give them financial training and skill training, along with marketing training also, so that they know how to sustain in their life. So these have been the three programs along with the two social ventures, Holy Cow Laksham and Tuk Tuk Gilheri.
That is like absolutely great job which you are doing. Ma'am,
Thank you.
when you have started, you were very young. At that time, were there any challenges other than which you mentioned about that people were staring at you and it was uncomfortable, obviously, because you were almost a kid, like that age we can say is okay, is of a kid. But like on a personal level, did your friends and family supported you? And was it like कि क्या कर रही है अभी पहले खुद अपने आप पे स्टैंड आउट करे फिर जाके हेल्प करे या फिर कहाँ पर जा रही है देयर आर मेनी क्वेश्चन मार्क्स व्हिच वी हैव इन आवर माइंड व्हेनेवर वी स्टार्ट एनीथिंग so
Hmm.
I would just like to have your words on it. Yes.
So, yes, of course, my family and friends were very supportive because I remember when I gave my corporate career up because I did my master's in advertising and events. and I was working with Planman and event management company. And there was one fine day because I was not happy with my corporate career. I went back to my father saying, "This is not what is giving me happiness, and this is not what I want to do." So he said, "Do whatever you want, but you need to ensure that आप अपने पैरों पे खुद खड़े होगे, बार बार मेरे पास आप नहीं आ सकते हो." And I think he was very supportive. That time I took a break. I started volunteering with a lot of NGOs to understand how an organization works. And with one saving amount that he gave me, कि इससे जो करना है करो, I started Laksham. And I never went back to him asking for more money. So it was just an initial investment that I took from my family. And my education in the form of events and all helped me to raise funds. Because for today also, Laksham, fundraising events have been a very integral part of organization to raise funds. But yes, I believe education is very important. I was never good at studies. So I did my 12th commerce. I scored really bad. So I got almost 70%, and I just could not get admission in any college in Delhi. So I had to take an admission in arts background. So coming from commerce to arts and then studying events and advertising, because कहीं पे मुझे admission होता ही नहीं था कभी भी. सो आई नेवर हैड एन बैकग्राउंड की कैसे प्रेजेंटेशंस बनते हैं, कैसे एक्सेल पे काम करते हैं, व्हाट इज एन इम्पैक्ट असेसमेंट, हाउ द इवैल्यूएशन आल्सो हैपेंस. So I think the education plays a very important role where I was lacking behind. And after starting Laksham, I have ensured that I do a lot of online learning programs, fellowships and all. I apply and try to gain as much knowledge as I can.
That is like absolutely important message you have given to the youth, because often a time we neglect अरे क्या ही होता है, what are you
Yes, so I think down the line we always forget कि अच्छा पढ़ाई कहाँ पर काम आएगी, but at times the education really matters.
Yes, ma'am, definitely. Along with that, like, since you are, like, I would just like to ask that, are you solely working on Lakshan, or like, is it something like as a part-time thing you're doing?
So initially it was two things. One was my event management company and Laksham. But as Laksham started to grow, I think I had to close down my event management company. And as of now, it's just Laksham.
All right. Ma'am, how do you hire volunteers? Like, what is the process? Because you would be needing a team, and there are children who are wanting to have experience in certain fields and who want to do something for the society or to have just a glimpse of it, how the things work. So, how do you hire volunteers? What is the process, and what is the entire mechanism that, okay, by doing this, the kid will learn this, and this is how it will benefit the society and it will benefit the people around. If
So
you could just
initially, it was majorly more about word of mouth. We used to go to colleges and different schools and talk about the organization, the kind of work we are doing, because that time there was nothing called Google advertising and SEO. So it was more about word of mouth, and we started creating a volunteer base from there. But since last few years, we have been very active on Google and SEO marketing. So on an average, every day we get almost 2 to 3 queries on volunteer and internships. And once we receive those applications, we have a team and then we review those applications. First round is about online interview. After that, we see if the child is capable enough. We do a physical round of interview and then we onboard the child. So the most peak season in the form of volunteers and interns are of course the summer and the winter, because and I think it's a very nice thing that even schools and colleges have made a mandate कि हर बच्चे को इतने आज तो आपको कम्युनिटी सर्विस करना ही है. So that certificate is also required. So we get a lot of applications and then we pick the child as per their skill set. And when we onboard them, we ensure that the child gets a 360-degree experience. So just not limiting to one field. So starting from field पे survey करना, mobilize करना, बच्चों को पढ़ाना. Then they're also stationed at office where they work on fundraising, then content writing, and also the admin work. So it's like a 360-degree overall experience for the child कि कैसे एक development organization का काम होता है. Plus,
yes,
I think there are a lot of online portals also wherein we apply. Give India hai aapka and I
ma'am.
volunteer hai. So a lot of online applications, we all are there.
Yes, ma'am. Now, for someone who just want to do in who just want to come into social service solely and wholly, and there are people who are, as we have discussed, that who are like, okay, मैंने तो यही करना है तो मैं अब से ये करता हूँ. I'll neglect other things. But they are trying to balance it out, and some people are not that much. They don't have much confidence that things could actually work or not, because there is always a level of uncertainty in anything which we do. So, ma'am, what is your message for those people who actually want to come into this field, but they don't have experience, they don't know about the things, and they're uncertain?
So I
Like,
think
should they have
we
a
all
backup?
need to be creating a model which is more on the lines of social entrepreneurship, because maybe at that point of a time we did not have an awareness कि social entrepreneurship भी कोई चीज होती है जिसमें कि आप काम भी कर सकते हो, आप पैसे भी कमा सकते हो, plus you are almost working for the welfare of the community also. So that time, because of the lack of awareness, I just have been working for like good 10 years just as a non-profit model. And a lot of times I've always been questioned. So how are you empowered? So practically, I was just one of the privileged ones. Maybe I can say that I always had my family supporting me. So I could always work on Laksham completely. But every person would not have that kind of a privilege, maybe. So even today, my idea of making Laksham sustainable is to ensure that I'm not dependent on anyone. सो वी ऑल नीड टू एंश्योर कि सोसाइटी के लिए हर कोई कर सकता है, बट सोशल ऑन्टरप्रेन्योरशिप अगर आप करोगे सो यू आर सेल्फ सफिशिएंट, you are making money, and your idea, whatever your idea is, you can ensure that you're giving back to society.
Yes. Along with it, one last question, that what is your message for all the children and all the youth who have been watching us through this interview?
So I think every small step matters, because जो भी पहली चीज चेंज की होती है ना वो हमारे यहाँ से शुरू होती है. Just a small story, because I remember I was working in the development space for good 5 years, and we started working in Ghaziabad Center, which was all about rack picker community. And there was a child called Deepak who was a rack picker. And I have always seen him walking across our center but never coming inside. एंड अगर आप किसी भी कूड़े वाले के बच्चों के हाथ पैर देखोगे ना तो उनके हमेशा हाथ कटे हुए होते हैं, पैर कटे हुए होते हैं, खून निकल रहा होगा, विच इज एन एवरेज सिचुएशन. And they would have their one bori which would have all the trash there. And one fine day I finally convinced him कि आप अंदर आओ. He came inside and I was just sitting and talking to him. And during the conversation I was like कि दीपक आप ऐसे क्यों करते हो, आप कूड़ा क्यों चुनते हो, आप अपना हाथ देखो कैसे खून निकल रहा है. And his one response was कि आप लोग कूड़ा ऐसे क्यों फेंकते हो. And that was one thing which made me shift, because मैं एनजीओ में काम भी कर रही थी, मेरा अपना एनजीओ भी चल रहा था, बट क्या मेरे घर पे वेट वेस्ट एंड ड्राई वेस्ट हो रहा था? नहीं हो रहा था. सो इवन इन माय हाउस होल्ड माय फैमिली वाज थ्रोइंग सिमिलर एक डस्टबिन में सारी चीजें. बल्कि हम लोग कितना सुनते हैं कि गीला कूड़ा अलग करो, सूखा कूड़ा अलग करो, दिस एंड दैट, बट वी नेवर टेक दैट इनिशिएटिव. एंड आई वाज आल्सो कंट्रीब्यूटिंग इन द लाइफ ऑफ दीपक, एंड मेनी ऑफ दीपक इज व्हाट आई कैन से, बिकॉज इन दैट वन bin even I was throwing bottle, I was throwing glass, I was throwing kitchen waste that was going outside, and that is where all the Rakpika kids are still sorting the waste in our country. So I realized that this basic step was not taken care by me, and I had a major influence for his life also. And I realized that every single step matters. And even if you talk about आपकी बात करें, आप अपनी फैमिली में आज भी 10 लोगों की बात करोगे ना, so they're still not into wet waste and dry waste management until and unless there is a rule and regulation in the society कि आप अलग नहीं करके दोगे तो लोग अभी भी अलग नहीं करते. So I think
नहीं तो
one
फनी लगेगा.
small step and we are towards the change.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Like, it
Thank
was
you.
wonderful talking to you. Thank you
Same
so
here.
much for taking out time from your busy schedule and scheduling this interview with us. Thank you so much
Thanks.
again. I hope I'll change, and it was
Thanks a
wonderful.
lot. See you. Bye bye.
When I started working, the first challenge that came was from the parents of the street children. They said, अगर हमारे बच्चे को पढ़ाना है तो 200 रुपये 3 घंटे के देना, क्योंकि वो भीख नहीं मांगेंगे तो हम रात को खाना कैसे खाएं? And the second was when I saw the kids were given a local drug by their own parents so that the children don't feel hunger and cold.